We're going to go ahead and get started, but hi everyone. Thank you again so much for taking time out of your Sunday and out of your weekend to be with us tonight. I really appreciate it, and so do all the other SGA members. So without further ado, Morgan, would you like to kick us off with the prayer pledge?
Sure. If you guys want, just take a second to center yourselves before we start prayer in any way you see fit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. And then a pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you so much, Morgan. All right, so tonight we have Dr. Mary Buckwalder here to speak with us. Annie, has Doctor joined yet?
I believe so. Wait, let me double check.
I'm here.
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, so everyone, Dr. Mary Buckwalder has graciously taken time out of her Sunday evening to be with us tonight. So during her presentation, please refrain from using any cell phones or anything and give her all the attention that you can and that she deserves, and there will be a time after for questions. So Dr. Mary, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me along. I'm in the car, so hopefully my hotspot stays good and I don't fade in and out. But anyway, Natalie and Annie asked me to give just a little update of where things are for the university for students with regard to COVID-19 and the task force work and where we kind of see things going. And very briefly, as a lot of you know, we went through a pretty crazy time with a high number of cases, and our status level went up to where we were very concerned about being able to manage that. Over the last few weeks, our percent positives has gone way down. In our surveillance testing, it's been generally a half to just over 2%, which is really reassuring. We're doing testing beyond surveillance testing. When students are sick and they come to the health center, we test, and obviously we're more likely to see positives if someone's sick. The surveillance testing is asymptomatic folks. But we've been able to bring the university status down back to a green, where we feel like the cases are pretty limited in limited areas, and that we're able to manage those. I know that there were a lot of questions as the status level went back down about being able to do broader activities. And one of the concerns, we don't want to get back up to where we're in trouble, where we feel like we're in trouble again, where the numbers start creeping up pretty high. And so over these first couple weeks of in-person, planned level of in-person classes, kind of watching and seeing, this past week, the week before, going into early next week, what our numbers look like, and so far so good. As we see how that goes, will it be, and as the weather gets colder, right now, up until now, it's been pretty easy to have get together, official meetings that are out beyond Zoom, that are actually outside where people can physically be in the same space, and activities that are outside. As the weather gets colder, there's more risk when folks are indoors, but we're going to kind of reevaluate that over the next week or two to see if the numbers are still good, can we, what are we going to do as the weather's colder and people need to be indoors more to keep everyone as safe as possible. It's a challenge in an area with, we worry about every year, influenza and colds and stuff. As the weather gets cold and people are indoors more, viruses spread pretty easily. And the things we're doing to try to reduce risk of COVID-19 should reduce the risk of respiratory viruses generally, so colds and influenza, weird bugs like RSV and adenoviruses, and there's a whole host of different fancy names for viral respiratory infections that we can identify, but we generally don't have any specific treatments for. So hopefully being good about good hand hygiene and physical distancing and the mask will keep COVID down as well as other viruses. So status-wise, things are green, level 2 right now. We hope we stay there. We'll be looking at what does that mean for activities over the next. We've had requests for some, increased indoor type activities. So no changes yet, but that's something we'll be looking at soon. And hopefully, as people go indoors, I know one of the concerns of leadership is parties indoors too, and people relaxing restrictions. And it's tough because we want to be with our friends, but being cautious when we're together, when you're not with people in your household, is really important because definitely we want to keep our numbers where we can continue the in-person classes and being together on campus for the semester. Hard to believe. I am floored that it's October, but here we are. So that's a very quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, concerns. And I don't know if Annie or Natalie, if you guys want to start, or people want to raise their hand and you guys call them out, and I'll be happy to answer stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Does anyone have any questions right now? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I just had a question about going forward for next semester. Is it going to be the same setup where it's half online, half in person, or like those optional courses, or are we looking more towards all back to normal?
Well, I don't think we're going to be all back to normal real soon until we have a preventive, effective therapies and effective prevention. So a safe, effective vaccine or vaccines. It's really going to be hard to reduce restrictions a lot. I think that, so I haven't worked directly I'm not on the Provost Council or anything, but the Path Forward Task Force certainly has Provost Benson and Carolyn Recker-Phelps, who's Associate Provost, has worked with us on a lot of stuff. And they're working really hard looking at next semester's composite and how to safely have people, I don't expect that the restrictions are going to be relaxed a lot. I think it'll probably be a hybrid model like this. So I do want to say, as far as vaccines, that the university has what they call an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with our public health, Dayton, Montgomery County, that once a vaccines just starts to be distributed, that there will be doses allocated specifically for UD, that we would be in charge of helping distribute those. But so if the government says these certain priority groups would get it first, they'll send us enough vaccine to do those groups. And then these groups next, then they'll send us vaccine for all of our students, faculty, staff, and immediate families of folks. So that's a good thing. I'm really happy that we've got that set up so that once the vaccine's available, we'll be in line for it. Hopefully that'll get us close, start getting us back to normal, some semblance of normal.
Sorry about that. I was just about to ask a question and my dad decided to call. So I first want to just say thanks for taking time out of your day to, or your evening now, to come talk to us. I do have two questions. So first of all, you mentioning vaccines, where do you see the university will stand on students having like high recommendations, or do you think the university will require students to get a vaccine before coming back to campus once it's available, or where do you see the university standing on
I think that, so, I mean, the vaccines, it's interesting for this in that there are several different types of vaccines being developed. So, and we don't know what's going to be, have enough safety information to be approved first and to have enough doses to distribute to hundreds of millions of people in this country. So it's really hard to say that there would be any mandate for that. I think that the more people that are immune to a disease, whether it's measles or COVID, the more protected those who aren't vaccinated are also. We call that herd immunity, because you get enough people that can fight off the germ kind of dies out in the amongst the population, or at very low levels. I don't see that there's likely to be a mandate to get a COVID vaccine. I think that part of it will be distribution, and that's out of our hands. And it may be that, my guess is that since young adults are in general, young adults without other medical issues, which a lot of students would fit in that category, are probably going to be lower down on the priority list. So it may not be available to healthy young adults till later next semester. I'm hopeful that we get the availability for most of our population through the end of this year through next semester, but I don't see it being mandated. I may eat those words, but I don't see that.
Wonderful. My second question was, I know that the Dean of Students Office in Housing and Residence Life has really tried to partner with a lot of faculty and staff to give them the opportunity to walk through the student neighborhood and really see how these COVID policies are being enforced. I didn't know if you had the chance to walk through the student neighborhood yourself after working so closely with the Path Forward Committee, and if you had seen and what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, I'm really encouraged. I think a lot of students are trying really hard and doing well to reduce risk. We see pockets. I get through the student neighborhood sometimes, and some kids, the household members on the porch outside is probably the biggest question mark. I mean, if you're in the same household, in theory, you should be at low risk. The challenge for others is it's more of a visual, that I don't know if you guys are all in the same household on the porch. And so encouraging everyone to have their masks outside is probably the thing that is least followed. Generally, I see when students are walking around together, a lot of good following of protocols, and that's hopeful, because we want to stay here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome.
I've got a question for you, Doctor.
Sure.
So I know you obviously can't release specifics or anything, but have you seen many adverse consequences from UD kids who have gotten COVID? We've had a very large % of our population test positive, but I'm just wondering if we've seen significant adverse consequences from it.
That's a good question. It's always one that I hate. And the reason, my normal role as a physician and medical director, everything's very confidential. And, this is a pandemic, there's public health effects. So people want to know how bad it is. In general, the vast majority of cases are pretty mild. But there are people who have had, who have more severe effects from it. We also worry about folks that have prolonged effects. I mean, even there's studies showing that even in mild cases, some people, like athletes, not just NCAA athletes, but anyone who likes to run or work out or can have potentially some long-term heart risk from COVID. It's a small %, but if folks out there are pretty athletic and they have the infection, even if it's mild, it's worth following up with a physician. I know our health center physicians are aware of that. We're working with our athletics division too to follow up the NCAA athletes who've had it to see, to give them cardiac clearance or see if they need to see a cardiologist. So even it's an infection we're still learning a lot, and even some cases can be severe. Have there been severe cases in folks on campus? I don't like to comment specifically, but certainly there are folks that are at risk for having that. And then even the mild cases, we worry about some long term. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything like that? Okay, seeing none. Jagels, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually got one more for you, Doctor. So for those of us, pretty large population on campus who have tested positive, from what I've seen on the CDC and ODH, we have immunity for at least 3 months, possibly longer. So what is the medical reasoning behind us still having to follow all of the pretty onerous restrictions around campus?
Well, there's a couple reasons. And from a medical standpoint, it's a germ we're learning a lot about. How long will that, and part of it's optics. If I see someone not wearing a mask, I would know, are they immune? Did they have an infection in July and they might be immune, they might not be immune? And so, I mean, part of it is kind of supporting the cause. And I think it's useful for, I think we help remind each other that this is really important right now, while still 90% of folks, 85 to 90% of students are still not immune. And a lot of faculty staff, I don't know what the percent is there, are not immune. So I think we want to support the protections, but we also don't know. Are you someone who maybe doesn't have immunity as long? Are you someone who has great robust immunity and might be immune for forever? We don't know. It's a new germ. So there's a lot of uncertainties. So both from a medical standpoint and just from a kind of supporting protection for everyone. Those are the two reasons why I know they're onerous. I know they're a pain. I've got grown kids that one's in Columbus, and it just, and I'm a hug person. I miss seeing friends and I just want to give them a hug. And it's not a good idea right now to be close for a prolonged, a short hug, I suppose, is pretty low risk. But in general, there's they're onerous, they're pain, but they're for everyone's protection. Thanks for asking. Someone else had a question.
Yes. So my name is Maleah Wells, and I'm Vice President of Black Action for Unity, which serves as our Black Student Union here on campus.
Great.
In particular to students of color and African American students, how has COVID affected these students on campus?
So it's interesting that the county has kept some statistics of people who've reported. So we've asked people to self-report, but through their contact tracing, they also have, they identify anyone that might be connected to campus. And on their demographic side, it looks like the vast majority, the ones they've followed, are students. There's a handful of faculty, staff, aged folks, but most of the folks identified through public health are students, and they give the demographics as far as reported race and ethnicity, and some people didn't report, but in general, it looks like the percent of African Americans, I'm going to say students because I usually work with students, and most are students, African American students and students that identify as Latinx, Latino, Latina, are lower than the representative percent in the UD population. So I was happy to see that. About I think it was about 25% of people didn't report to the contact tracers as far as demographics, their race or ethnicity. So those, we don't know if that might make it higher or the same or lower. But from the ones who reported, it was a lower percent. And so is that students have been more cautious, students, we don't know, just weren't as effective. Does that help, Maleah?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Did anyone else have any questions? All right, well, seeing none, Dr. Buckwalder, thank you so much again for taking time out of your Sunday evening to be here. We all really, really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Natalie and Annie, for having me. And if you guys think of stuff afterwards, thanks. If you think of things afterwards, you guys can send me, an email through just campus mail. And sometimes I get a little behind on those. I try to keep up, but I'd be happy to respond just directly too. So take care. Thanks for all the good stuff you guys do for campus. It's all of you as student leaders that are really important too, in making sure that your friends, your colleagues, all the students across campus keep this in mind and keep going forward in a good way. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. You too.
All right, Grant, would you like to do attendance?
Yeah, thanks, Nat. So as I call your name, please just say here or whichever vernacular you prefer. James Brill.
Here.
Jada Brown.
Present.
Jules Carr-Chelman.
Present.
Natalie Coppolino.
Here.
Morgan Cox.
Here.
Lillian Dickman.
Here.
Jesse Edwards.
Here.
Michael Fields.
Here.
Sophia Garcia.
Here.
Jessica Garvin.
I'm here. Okay, good. My mic kind of
Thanks,
freezes
Jessica.
sometimes.
You're fine. Mason Gordon.
Here.
Tong Yu Guo.
Present.
Daniel Hennessy.
Present.
Hannah Obi.
Here.
Andrew Hubert. Andrew Hubert. Jake Jagels. In attendance.
Bridget Mooney,
Here.
Drew Moyer,
Here.
Ryan Pearson,
Here.
Annie Philbin,
Here.
Grace Pierucci,
Here.
Tommy Reese,
Here.
Jack Santee,
Here.
Kelly Stewart,
Here.
Benjamin Thomas,
Here.
Jacob Troutwine,
Here.
and Rachel Veneman.
Here.
Okay. Did I miss anybody there? Kat has said that she's not going to be in attendance today. Other than that, I think I should have gotten everyone. All right. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to jump into public announcements. Does anyone have any public announcements? There will be a time for public comments and concerns following the announcements. All right, seeing none, before we jump into public announcements, we have a way for public comments and concerns to hopefully run a little bit more smoothly and so that more people can talk and be heard this week. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop a Google document link in the chat for public comments and concerns where people can go ahead and sign up. And then that way everybody knows who's talking next and they can just go ahead and unmute themselves. Additionally, we are having Lillian keep time because in our governing documents, it does say that we talk about each person's public comment or concern for 10 minutes. And then once that 10 minutes is up, we do move along to the next public comment or concern. And then if that person wants to speak again, they can just go ahead and put their name in the Google document again to speak again. And so without anything else, do we have any public comments or concerns right now?
Yes, I do. Also, this is Maleah Wells, Vice President of Black Action for Unity, by the way. So my question is for Tong Yu. I just wanted to know how everything was going, with your position. I've been, looking for an email from you through our Batu email, and I still haven't received anything. So just wanted to know how that's going.
Yeah, for some reason, someone impeached me with 15 charges. So I've been spending hours times to run my defense. So I really didn't get a chance to do anything for my campus unity committee. I did write emails to invite people from college Democrats, college Republicans, as well as Turning Point USA. That's my update.
I have a question. So Jada Brown and a couple of other MAC students are hosting a anti-racism demonstration tomorrow. And I wanted to know, what is SGA doing in order to support? Will anybody be in attendance from SGA, and are they able to speak?
Hi, Malon. Thank you so. Oh, was somebody else gonna? Okay, sorry. Hi, Malon. Thank you so much for that. The UD SGA page has reposted it, as well as I have put the graphic in our Slack so that members are encouraged to also post it on their own social medias. Additionally, there will be SGA members in attendance, and I believe I spoke with Jada a little bit earlier. I think it was Friday evening, about speaking at the event, if that is still something that you all would be interested in.
You said Joe be speaking?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Was there another person in the doc that wanted to speak? Okay, seeing no more public comments and concerns, I'll check one more time. Did we have anyone else who wanted to go that did not get a chance to sign up in the doc? Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you wanted to speak on this. Okay, so seeing none, do any SGA members have a report or an announcement they would like to give? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I do. So yeah, Jess Garvin and I have been working the past 2 weeks, working with an associate director who works with the Recplex. He came to us with an issue telling us that the sophomore numbers for involvement in intramurals has gone down quite significantly compared to last year. And he was saying that looking at the freshman numbers compared to sophomores are usually pretty similar, but this year the sophomore level is way down compared to freshmen. So we've been working with him for ways that we can increase the participation of sophomores. So if anyone has any ideas or would like to help with that, we'd love to get some opinions from anyone. Definitely some junior opinions maybe to see what your living situation was like last year. We definitely love to hear it. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Do we have any other reports from SGA members right now?
So I guess you can go ahead.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah,
I saw
go
your
ahead.
comment in the chat.
Well, mine was off that. I was just saying that somebody said they didn't get access to it. But I mean, you can go ahead and go. I was going to say something else.
Okay, Mine's real quick. So we have had a couple, probably about 10-ish people finish the Slack walkthrough that was posted on Isidore. And I was going to have a kind of like a Q&A session tonight. I'm going to cancel that because we didn't have a whole lot of RSVPs. And if people aren't doing the walkthrough, I can't really help you with questions if you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to postpone that to some point this week. That's TBD. I need to look at my schedule, but keep an eye out for an email from me. Yeah.
Jada, did you have yours?
I had something, but it looks like Maleah has another question, so I can hold off.
Yeah, we can backtrack to public comments and concerns as well if we need to.
Mine's super short, so we can just go back. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have another question, and this pertains to the last meeting that we did have in regards to, Tongyu and the committee situation. It was brought to some of our attention that while in that meeting, there was a secret group chat going on to where there were some things said about our meeting and us also being in that space. And I would just like, to ask some clarifying questions and answers about that, especially since knowing Miss Jada was not included in this group chat. So I would like to ask, what was that about? Because it seemed very unprofessional.
Maleah, I agree completely with you. And to my knowledge, I did not know about this group chat either. Does somebody else who knows a little bit more about that, or maybe who
I didn't know about it either.
Okay.
Yes, I can tell you it was Bridget Ofori had brought it to our attention because I guess she is included in this group chat, and she had said that there were some things, negative things said within that group chat about us being there.
Okay. Maleah, if you know any more about that group chat and would like to email me about it, I can more directly take care of that concern, because that is something that I think a lot of us did not know about.
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Malon, go ahead. I think you're next.
Sorry, I thought about another thing. This is more of a request, but do you think that SGA could make some type of statement in regards to just kind of the lives that have been lost over the summer? I know that a lot of students are mourning, specifically with the verdict of the Breonna Taylor case. So I just wanted to know if there could be some type of public statement saying that you stand with students of color in solidarity, in particular Black women, because it's just been affecting all of us.
Yeah, at the time that this all happened, kind of in the summer when all of this was coming to the surface, Annie and I did send out an email on SGA's behalf addressing that. However, we can most definitely put something else out. I think that would be a great idea.
Thank you.
I had somebody message me privately. They said they wanted to remain anonymous. But they said that after last weekend's meeting, they wanted to know if there was any steps that SGA was taking to really support students of color, specifically Black students, in regards to either the campus unity role or standing in solidarity with Black students. So they were kind of wondering, even though it's only been a week, like what actions has SGA taken to kind of, get started on that kind of process.
Yeah, definitely. So I can take this question, and then people who I've met with, SGA members throughout the week, can go ahead and just jump in if I forget anything. So we actually did write some legislation on Friday evening because even though actions are nice, it does need to be on paper first to kind of hold ourselves accountable for it. So our legislation, which will be brought up later, has everything kind of outlined in that document. And then additionally, Annie and I have been in multiple meetings throughout the week, one with Dr. Burnley, who is the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. And we kind of discussed with him some ideas moving forward. And I brought to him an idea about having SGA kind of maybe head up a governing document for other student-led organizations to follow. And it could be something along the lines of how to become, or steps to becoming an anti-racist student-led organization. And it would be in accordance and in alignment with the document that the university released about becoming an anti-racist institution. So that would better kind of lay out our plans and maybe have a timeline for when we want to achieve different goals. And I'm happy to kind of keep SGA updated when I give my updates on like a weekly basis on that too. Did anyone else want to jump in on that?
Natalie, I can share the legislation as view in the chat if that helps.
Yeah, that would be great, Ryan. Thank you. All right. I don't see anybody who wanted to speak next in the chat. Were there any other names on the Google document? Whoever was next on there can just go ahead and unmute themselves. Malon, I think to your point in the chat, we are, like Bridget said, I was just gonna say we're open to any ideas. Additionally, we can use the SGA email, which does have access to more of a campus-wide thing and has a bigger reach than social media. So that's also a good point that you brought up. All right. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to say? Any public comments or concerns?
May I make a statement?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I keep hearing a lot of complaints and other things about being questioned by students at our meetings, and I know it was contentious. I just wanted to say that our job is to sit here and listen to the concerns of people who are speaking to us. So for anyone who's annoyed by the public comments and who gets annoyed with people coming to express their concerns, that's what we signed up to do as representatives and as legislators. And when we pass part of our agenda, as we have to get to, that can be pushed off. People's lives can't be pushed off because legislation will be here next week. People may not. So I think that it's our responsibility to remember that we're here to serve the public. And if it's going to take an extra 30 minutes because of public commenting, so what? That's our job.
Just kind of, Jesse, were you done?
Yes.
I was just going to say, to go off of that, legislation can be tabled as well. So keep that in mind, that it can always be pushed off to the next week or pushed off to the week after that if we do need to address things. And also, we have never had public comments and concerns like this before. So I think that it's great that we're actually utilizing this part of our organization.
And I really just want to add on to that, like, I think like having this many public comments is like a good thing. And I think it's something that people are viewing as like something bad. But I think that like when you have a student body that really wants change just as much as we do, like that's something good. Like that's something we should be listening to. That's something we should base our legislation off of. Like that's not a negative thing. I'm not gonna like name names or anything because I really want to like stay professional. But somebody last week said that the only reason I shared the SGA Senate link was to bring in people to harass SGA, and that's absolutely not true, because I would not be here if I didn't believe that SGA can be such a positive influence on the student body, on white students, Black students, and any other student of color. And I believe in SGA, and that was part of the reason why I ran. And so I don't think that having all this criticism means that SGA is like a failed organization or anything. Like, I really think that like this is a space, like this is a time that we can really use the power that we have on campus to create change and to make lives better for students who are being put at a disadvantage. And yeah, that's really all I had to say. And I want to thank the students again who came to the meeting last week and who continue to come to this meeting this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to voice your opinions and share your stories and share your concerns, because it really does matter and it's going to make a change. Thank you.
All right, was there anybody else at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to just echo real quick what Jada said there. It is so nice to have students coming and voicing their concerns. This is something we have not had in the past at SGA, and something that is sorely needed, you know, because like kids don't show up, and when kids do, it really means a lot to us, because, you know, we spend a lot of time in SGA, and hearing from our fellow students on what really matters to them makes a big difference to us, and we appreciate it and really hope you guys keep coming.
All right, did anybody else have anything right now? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move into my weekly report. So I just wanted to update you all that the University of Dayton Convalescent Plasma Drive will be coming to campus on October 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, 22nd, and the 29th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Meeting Room B in the Recplex. And then it will also be here again November 2nd through the 5th at the same time, same place. This is something that Annie and I have been working on for a couple of months to, you know, make happen, just because of how many students on campus did have and recover from COVID. And that plasma is in high demand right now, and not only in the Dayton community, but in a larger scale community as well. So if you have had and recovered from COVID, please think about taking the time to donate your plasma. It's a great way to give back. Additionally, Annie and I did receive a request for a student to sit on the citation appeals board. So if anybody is very passionate about parking tickets or citations on campus, go ahead and please let me know, because we do need an SGA representative on that. And you can just put it in the chat or text me after, that's fine.
Will we be able to waive our own parking tickets if we sit on this board, or is that a benefit if I volunteer for this? No, I was just kidding.
I don't know, Drew, if you sit on the board and take the position, you might know.
I will take it into consideration.
Okay. Also, the Athletic Advisory Committee reached out to Annie and I, and they also would like an SGA representative to sit on that committee. So if anybody would like to be a part of the Athletic Advisory Committee, please also just drop your name in the chat or text me or email me after, so I can send your name along to the appropriate people. Next, Annie and I were asked by President Spina to attend the Chancellor's Roundtable for the state of Ohio a few weeks ago. And at this meeting, it was just a bunch of student leaders from different colleges and universities across the US. And we discussed mental health while being a student during a pandemic. And I was recently notified that following that conversation, Governor DeWine was very impressed, and he did request new mental health initiatives, including a $16 million funding for higher education and mental health support. So that's just one great thing that SGA is doing, and how we can make a difference on a bigger scale. Also, there will be a virtual alumni webinar on October 28th. Annie, Ryan, and I were asked to present a little bit about SGA and SGA's goals for this year. So if anybody wants to help us create that presentation or has any suggestions on what we should present on, just you feel free to reach out to either of us and let us know, and we can add you to the doc, or we can add you to the meetings that we're having soon. Additionally, SGA typically will go to the ASGA conference in DC this time of year. However, it is completely virtual this year given the COVID environment that we're all in. But Chris was kind of wondering if anybody would be interested in attending this. It is October 9th and 10th, and I will be putting the flyer in the Slack. So if anybody is interested, just go ahead and show your interest and we can try to figure that out for everyone. And then lastly, like Jada did mention earlier and a few other people mentioned, there is an anti-racism demonstration tomorrow, and it will be starting at 1 p.m. at the MLK Memorial, which is just right outside of the library. And if you can attend, please do so, especially SGA members, please show up for this. This is very important to me. Also, if you cannot attend but want to promote this on social media, that would be really great too and very helpful as well. I did put it in the Slack, so feel free to just post that graphic on your social medias. Also, I'll be giving a small speech at it, which will be shared with other people within the organization to help edit and write as well. So if anybody else wants to take a look at that before I give it, please let me know tonight and I'll share the document with you.
Can I add on to that? Because that's what I was going to speak on earlier. So the anti-racism demonstration, it starts, so it's kind of like a two-part. So at 1 o'clock, we will be meeting by the MLK Memorial, which if you don't know, it's in between like the chapel and Albert Emanuel. Like it's like that little seat with the book on it if you've never been there. So that's where we will start. There is a route that we'll be marching. It's like we're planning to march like an hour and a half so we can give students, the time that if they are coming out of class or they're going through Zoom, that they can come in and march, whatever. Signs are definitely recommended, if you have the material. If not, the Multi-Ethnic Education and Engagement Center is planning to offer materials tomorrow before the march. So once they clarify what time that'll be ready, I'll definitely send it out in the Slack. So SGA is more than welcome to stop by MEC. If you've never been there, it's a good place. It's my favorite place to go on campus. So we'll do the march at 1, and then at 2:30, there'll be a rally starting. And so like Natalie said, she is speaking, but it's also staff members, faculty members, and most importantly, students of color. Even though most of you guys won't be speaking, I really do think it's important that if you can come and show up. Obviously social distancing and masks will be enforced, but I think this really is another opportunity, for us to hear in our positions the concerns of students of colors on a really amplified platform, and just to speak out of passion and, really talk about their experiences on campus. I'll be sharing my experiences on campus as well. So if you are free and you want to support, I really would recommend doing so. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can either email me or reach out to me on Slack, it doesn't matter. So I really hope to see you guys there and see you guys in solidarity with students of color. Thank you.
I have a quick follow-up question to that. Is there the route, is that posted anywhere? Because I have class during that time. So if I join after 1 p.m., would I know where everybody is?
The route isn't it's kind of just a tentative route, if that makes any sense. So I have if we start at MLK and then we go through KU, but I mean, I can definitely post it in the Slack, it's not, I can definitely post the route. And then, I mean, if you either want to reach out to me, I mean, I'll have my cell phone at all times. And so if you're hey, I just got out of class, where are you guys? I can definitely give you a leeway of whoever, or hopefully you'll have more friends who are also at the protest that can also kind of be hey, we're over here. But I'm definitely willing to be that resource for you as well.
You said there's a Zoom link for that as well?
For the rally, there should be. I believe we're still getting it together to see if we can get a stand. There won't be a Zoom for the march because
yeah.
But there should be a Zoom link for the rally for those who want to watch it virtually.
Awesome. Can you send that to us as well?
Of course.
Thanks.
I have just a quick update about the ASGA conference. For those of you who are budget conscious, there's one registration fee for the entire organization. So if you're interested in it, you can learn more at ASGA conferences.com, I think. It might be .org, I'm not sure. And please do let us know, because love to get the most for our money. And also, I apologize if the lady keeps coming on and saying this meeting's being recorded. I am driving in and out of this cell service.
Perfect. So Michael, did we have any student org special requests this week?
We did not.
No? Okay. All right, Jake, you can go ahead and kick off Senate floor then.
Thank you, Madam President. The time is 6:50. I hereby call Senate floor to order. Will the secretary please call the roll of voting members?
Absolutely. Same deal as before. James Brill.
Here.
Jada Brown.
Present.
Jules Carr-Chelman.
Present.
Morgan Cox.
Here.
Jesse Edwards.
Here.
Sophia Garcia.
Here.
Jessica Garvin. Jessica, you still here? Tong Yu Guo.
Here.
Daniel Hennessy.
Present.
Hannah Hobie.
Here.
Andrew Hubert. Drew Moyer.
Here.
Ryan Pearson.
Here.
Grace Perucci.
Here.
Tommy Reese.
Here.
Jack Santee.
Here.
Kelly Stewart.
Here.
Ben Thomas.
Here.
Jacob Troutwine.
Here.
And Rachel Veneman.
Here.
Okay, and Jessica messaged me and said that she's here.
So that appears we have 19 voting members present. At this time, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint so everyone can follow along. Can everyone see this?
Yep, we got it.
Great. So do we have any points or motions at this time? Previous legislation is what should be brought up first.
I move to bring Senate Bill 2021-05 to the floor.
Thank you. Do we have any seconds?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Senator Moyer. All in favor of bringing Senate Bill 2021-05 to the floor? So please say yay or raise your hands.
Yay.
Great. All opposed? Seeing we have a majority, we have Senate Bill 2021-05. This is the Vice President of Finance. You have the floor.
Thank you, Jake. So this was brought up last Senate meeting. This is a review of the fall funding requests from the different student organizations. I hope all of you have had the time to look over this. So I'm welcome to any questions.
Does anyone have any points or motions at this time? The speaker will look favorably upon some points of interest.
Hello. Point of information.
Senator Trowine.
Yes. I have a question as to Alpha Phi Alpha. They asked to purchase a grill, it appears, but it appears that it was because of the COVID-19 pandemic that they're not allowed to make that capital purchase request. Is there like any additional color as to that, as to the reason why they cannot actually do that at this time, or is that like just simply because of COVID, even if they would? My time.
VP
Okay.
Fields.
Yeah, you were kind of breaking up there, but I think you were asking and pertaining to the grill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, so we aren't sure if they could actually like purchase a grill even like outside the COVID-19 pandemic. But because that is like a food related issue, that's kind of like what we're relating that to. So the grill is kind of like in a gray area right now.
Okay, so, okay, I guess I get it. I yield my time.
Thank you, Senator Troutwine. Anyone else have a further point or motion at this time?
I have a point.
I do have an additional.
Oh, go ahead. You're good. You're good.
All right, sorry about that. Point of information in regards to the AICE about the CDC supplies. I'm a little confused by that. Like, what is the nature of that request?
VPF Fields.
I'm sorry, what organization were you referring to?
Well, so there's actually several that say CDC supplies, and I'm confused as to whether that's like personal protective equipment or something to that effect.
Were you looking at like any specific organization?
There's a few. For instance, it's like the American Institute of Chemical Engineers and Kappa Phi honorary art fraternity.
Yes. So we aren't really sure if Christmas on campus is happening yet. So we can't really confirm that we can supply funds for an event that isn't actually going to happen yet. They're still kind of working out those details.
Okay, my apologies. I misread that. I believe it said CDC. I yield my time.
Okay, thanks.
Senator Brown.
I had a question. So, or do I say I have a point, a motion?
Point of information.
I have a point of information. Thank you, Drew. A couple of these organizations said they wanted to use their money for like food or a potluck. Were they denied for that because they like had a plan that like wouldn't be COVID like eligible, you know, like say like they were going to have like a cookout or something, you know, like where you can't like have people, or were they denied because like under COVID you can't serve any type of food? I just didn't know.
Yeah, so the university is really strict on allowing like food to be served at certain organizations. So we're just kind of like being a bit strict on funding food because of the university regulations on that.
Okay.
Point of information. I think that that's been a rule for the past several years. That's not new with the whole COVID thing.
I have a point of information as well for Vice President Fields. And looking more closely at the fall 2020 requests, for Alpha Phi Alpha, they requested $200 for an on-campus event for a student dinner. And I'm assuming it was approved because the whole amount of money was approved. But then if you look at for the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, they were denied requests for food. So I didn't know what the clarification difference was and why they were approved and one was not.
Are you looking at like the 1,270 and then the 1,000?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we only approved 1,000 from that, so we did not fund them the whole request.
So meaning the part of the request that they had for the student dinner was denied. They were allotted money for the different requests.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One additional point of information. In regards to the Multicultural Programming Council, I'm a little confused as to the description that's provided there. It seems like it's a separate request and therefore should be granted the entire $550. I'm a little confused as to that explanation there.
Yeah, are you talking about the remaining money?
Yes. It's my understanding that requests, if they're talking about their own budget, like that's like as sort of explained in the description, if they're talking about their own budget, that's separate from SGA funding, and therefore that's not really a consideration for SGA. The what they're asking for here is money from SGA for this particular event, and I'm a little confused as to why that wouldn't.
Yes, that's correct. So they mentioned like splitting the cost, and then having some costs like carried over from their previous SGA budget. And we said that the funds do not carry over from year to year. So we supplied like the $60, and it was a little bit of a unique request in that they were asking for a lot of supplies, but the supplies seemed to be repeated. And that's why there's a big difference there from the 550 to the 60. Just because I think they were a bit confused of how the form actually worked. So we just tried to like clear some of that up for them. And we're happy to review any special requests that they submit after fall funding.
Okay, so that has been cleared up though?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Trotwine. Anyone have any further points or motions at this time? Seeing and hearing none, the speaker look favorably upon a motion to move to the previous question.
I move to the previous question.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
I have a second. Senator Moyer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. Thank you. We are now moving into voting procedure on Senate Bill 20-21-05. For this, please go to your participants tab and click the green check mark to vote yes, the red X to vote no, and the go slower button to abstain. It appears we have a majority in favor of Senate Bill 21-05, authorization of funding week. This bill at this time has passed. Any further points or motions?
Move to bring Senate Bill, I believe Senate Resolution 2021-04 to the floor.
Thank you, Senator Trotwine. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Hearing a second from Director Cox. All those in favor of bringing Senate Resolution 2021-04 to the floor, please raise your hands this time. All those opposed? Senate Resolution 2021-04 is brought to the floor. Director Pearson, you have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so in this bill relates to some concerns that we heard from students at our last Senate meeting, and going back into a group of us met to write this bill or this resolution. So we were kind of reflecting back on what SGA has done in the past and as it relates to supporting students. And I think it's really important that everyone reads this. I'll just give a quick overview real quick. So basically, it kind of ties back to, on the PowerPoint, Senate Resolution 161707, which was a bill obviously passed in 2016-2017 when SGA was supporting diverse groups across campus, and we kind of liken this bill back to that one. So we basically say that in the second whereas clause that we endeavor to support the inclusion of underrepresented groups in the community. Third whereas clause, we heard directly from students at our Senate meeting and ballot suggestions. The last whereas clause, we acknowledge that regretfully SGA has not adequately represented or interacted with diverse populations in the past, including student organizations dedicated to the university's diverse student populations. And then going into the resolved clauses, We are dedicated to becoming an anti-racist organization and will help others to become the same. Kind of like what Natalie touched on during her address, we'll present legislation as a follow-up later in the semester addressing issues within our organization. We will examine our elections processes, rededicating ourselves to carrying out actions outlined in Senate Resolution 161707. Some of those have not been upheld in past years, and we strive to do that. We will promote and attend programming as informed or as invited through the Director of Special Programs, as well as continue to host conversations surrounding and addressing vital topics through our programming. We dedicate ourselves to creating and fostering a healthy, productive relationship with both the MEC community and underrepresented communities on campus. We support racist policies in every way and will continue to do so in the future. We will participate and bring student concerns to UD administration about anti-racist policies and initiatives. We will update the student body on progress towards these goals and regularly communicate with the student body regarding timely campus matters. I can take questions from SGA members, and if anyone in the audience has questions, please message me and I'll try to answer those.
Thank you very much, Director Pearson. Do we have any points or motions?
Yes, point of information.
Senator Trautwein?
Is there any way in which we can speak to the discussion that occurred at the Academic Senate 2 weeks ago within this document? Is there any way we could add it, like, just sort of saying that I'd have to think about the wording here, but just sort of addressing that in any sort of sense?
Director Pearson?
I would say is details surrounding last meeting and the academic are still forthcoming, and we're still kind of looking into all of that. I would say that can be brought up in future legislation. I just think touching on that now would, I don't know. I don't think it's appropriate in this bill. In the future, I'm open to it.
Then an additional point of information.
Senator Trautwein?
Would we be open to perhaps tabling this, working on some of those details so that we can communicate that within this document itself and sort of get it all passed in one go, rather than trying to, like, you know, like trying to actually address it within this one?
Director Pearson?
I think touching on what Natalie said in her address, we were kind of hoping to get the ball rolling on some of these things, like she said, to keep accountable, because this does give us a deadline for, well, not a deadline, kind of a soft deadline for future legislation addressing issues within the organization. And it also, I can't speak to this completely. I don't know the whole story, but I know that we've been looking at ways to keep the student body up to date on what SGA has been doing in a more effective way. So I think especially point 8 on this document in this legislation kind of holds us more accountable. So there's kind of a few things that should be passed in a timely manner, and I don't necessarily think it's appropriate to table this the week after we had our first Senate with student concerns brought.
I do actually like that. I think that makes sense too. Sorry about that. Thank you. I yield my time.
Point of information.
Senator Brown?
While I do like the message of this document, and standing in solidarity and admitting a lot of the flaws within SGA in the past, I'm actually might be kind of on the verge of like tabling it for next week and possibly editing it more, because I think that, you know, this document talks about keeping progress towards these goals, you know, but I think it needs some action steps to it, you know, like how are we going to track how we're keeping progress of, like, you know, these goals, and how we're going to make sure that we're doing what we said that we are going to be doing. Yes, or we can work on amending it, but I do think it is important to have some action steps, because I think like words are meaningless. You need like a plan behind what you say you're going to doing. And I know that hints towards that in this document a little bit, but I think having that kind of like as a guideline for more legislation as we go would be extremely helpful.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Director Pearson?
I completely agree. Actually, the couple of us that met to write this legislation together actually discussed that. That's why we were thinking we couldn't decide on a title. I mean, that's obviously the sticking. I'm kidding, but we kind of titled it "Moving Forward" as an anti-racist organization, so that it wasn't our final, like, if that's making sense, like our final piece of legislation that lays out our action steps. It was kind of a first step saying, okay, here's what our principles, I guess, kind of are. Like, here's what we want to say right now, and then the group of us that were talking about this legislation, we're kind of thinking along the lines of, in any meetings or anything that we have coming up, I don't know what everyone else is doing, but we had kind of discussed having legislation with more definite steps, maybe next, I don't know when exactly it would happen, but I guess this serves as in my mind, and I guess, yeah, it kind of served as a first step, but I'm open to suggestions.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Any further points or motions?
Yeah, I agree that we should definitely have some steps that keep us accountable. I think that's a really good idea, but I think a resolution isn't the place, just because our resolution typically is more of a statement, but we could definitely make a comparable bill or change our bylaws to add in those action items that we can check off and say, like, yes, we're holding ourselves accountable. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Reese. Any further points or motions?
I can kind of comment back on that. Attorney General Gordon was in for part of this discussion, and he had touched on any bylaws changes would have to go through the Issues and Bylaws Committee first and then be brought to the floor. So there's kind of that stretches out the time in which that, like, the SGA's like in-roll accountability would take. And I agree with Tommy when he said that a resolution's more like a statement based on print rather than action. We did consider the idea of seeing if we could write a bill here in the next week or so.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Senator Troutwine.
Would it be amenable to the Senate to, and I don't know if tonight is the right time to do it, but to have one of those open floor Senates wherein we basically draft the document on floor? I think that would be really valuable. We could also suspend the rules in order to get people outside of SGA their opinions on it too. I think that this is something that we need to move on sooner rather than later. And I think that, like, getting the entire input of the entire SGA body rather than just one committee, I think that would be at least an approach that I would prefer.
Thank you, Senator Troutwine. Director Pearson, would you like to respond to that?
Just because I'm the sponsor of this bill, I would say that would probably be more appropriate for our, assuming a bill is coming down the pipeline, I would, in my mind, think that would be more appropriate for the bill. Just because that way we all have, or I guess if we're talking about changing our accountability and stuff like that, I think that would be a better place for open Senate discussion on that.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay.
Any further points or motions?
I move for previous question.
Thank you, Senator Moyer. Do we have a second? Seeing a second from Senator Hobie. Will all those in favor of moving to the previous question, please raise your hand at this time. All those opposed, please raise your hand at this time. Senator Brown, the speaker look favorably upon you explaining your concerns with moving to the previous question at this time.
I don't know. I just personally feel like there hasn't been enough input from the rest of the Senate body to really push this forward. I feel like it's like 3 people talking about it, and I just don't feel comfortable pushing that. I really just feel like this is something that everybody needs to get more of a head of, like, ahead on, like having more of a unified goal. Like if this is going to be the beginning statement, then I feel like everybody else needs to give their opinion on, you know, what's the next action step. Because the last thing I want this bill to be is just like a false promise to students of color. So I would honestly like more discussion time on the floor to really hear other opinions of other senators, but that's just me.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Director Pearson?
Would Jada, kind of addressing what you're saying, would it be not a solution, but would it be helpful to add a line item giving us a deadline for future steps if we wanted to say within the next 3 Senate meetings, we could have a bill drafted and include something saying that we have to include the entire Senate in the writing of that bill?
Yes, that actually would be helpful to put a deadline on, you know, this is just like a beginning, but action steps will be posted at this date. Yes.
I can make that amendment. That's friendly if I can add that.
That is acceptable, Director Pearson, if you want to add that to the bill now. Please tell us the specific language you're using on that when you type it up.
Need just a second. In the I guess any concerns?
While Director Pearson is doing that, do we have any further points?
Point of information, when's the last time SGA had a Tough Talker Campus Clarity event?
For that question, we're going to go to Director Gual.
I think that's the question for the previous director of campus unity, but is Natalie has any input on that? When was the last time had a Tough Talk or campus clarity?
The speaker would like to remind everyone that in order for President Cupolino to speak, we would have to suspend the rules.
I move to suspend the rule to allow President Cupolino to talk.
I second that motion.
Thank you. We have a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed to this motion, please raise your hand.
Me, I'm opposed. I just looked it up. Our last one I'm finding was December 4th of last year.
Thank you, Senator Reese. And seeing a few opposed to that, we will not suspend the rules this time. Does that answer your question, Senator Brown?
And you said that's the Tough Talk or the Campus Clarity?
Senator Reese?
That was a tough talk on gun violence.
Okay. I will say that, point of information, a lot of students of color thought that SGA got rid of Tough Talks because they hadn't had them in such a long time. So I do think it is problematic to like say in like the bill that like through Tough Talks and Campus Clarity, because of like, you know, the crowd that we're trying to reach out to thinks we got rid of the event. Maybe putting like a more welcoming language in there to say that like we're going to further implement, you know, kind of stating that we're going to like keep like having those events and make them present and make sure that people can come to them and that they're still happening on a regular basis and not being pushed on like the back burner. I don't know if Ryan, you'd want to implement that.
Senator Pearson, or if a senator has a motion to amend.
I move to amend the resolution.
Thank you, Senator Trotwine. What language do you move to amend?
I move to amend the, it's a little tough to read on my screen, the language as to point 4 of the resolution, to say, instead of as well as continues to host, instead saying recommits to, recommits to that, changing that language to say that.
Is that amendment favorable, Director Pearson?
Yes. The idea is friendly. I don't love the language, but yes.
Seeing the language is friendly, we do not need to have a vote on that. Are there any further points or motions at this time?
I'd move to the previous question.
Thank you, Senator Trotwine. We have a motion to the previous question. Do we have a second? I see a second from Senator Hobie. All those in favor of moving the previous question, please raise your hand at this time. Will all those opposed, please raise your hand at this time. Seeing a majority in favor of moving to the previous question, we will move into voting procedure on Senate Resolution 2021-04, moving forward as an anti-racist resolution. Will all those in favor of the bill please go into Participants tab and click the green check mark. All those opposed, the red X. And all those who like to abstain, please click the Go Slower button. Seeing a strong majority in favor of Senate Resolution 2021-04, this resolution has passed as written. Any further points or motions at this time?
Point of information for Tong Yu. Do we have any Tough Talks scheduled for this semester?
Director Guo.
Originally, yeah, I can answer this question. Originally, I was not planning to continue Tough Talks since it was not as effective as I thought from what I see last year. Like I said, like beginning, I was trying to have events that is more focused on like teaching people how to engage in civil conversations, but obviously it can fall under director of special programs as well. And I'm not opposed to the idea of reopening Tough Talks.
Point of information, if you were going to officially get rid of Tough Talks, like what kind of program would you have in replacement of it? Because Tough Talks, I feel like, are is an environment where students can have those challenging conversations, even if they do have quote unquote different ideology. You know, like with the gun violence, that's something that people have like a different political ideology on. So like, what would be an idea of an event that you would replace Tough Talks with? Like, what would that look like?
Even if I get rid of Tough Talks, it will be similar. Like I was trying to mainly focus on how to engage in civil conversations, since most of us don't know how to engage in civil conversation as what I see. So, but like I said, I'm willing to reopen Tough Talks if everyone's willing to do that. So I own my time.
Thank you. Any further points or motions?
Yeah, I would just second the idea not to get rid of them. I think that's one of the bigger things that SGA has done in the past is creating a safe space for all of us to have those conversations. And that's part of college, is where we learn different opinions and we grow. So I definitely would be opposed to ending our Tough Talk section.
I agree.
Another point of information, I think that amongst the multicultural community, a lot of them were very saddened that, because they genuinely thought that we did get rid of Tough Talks. Honestly, I thought we got rid of Tough Talks too before I joined SGA. So I think that something that's favorable amongst the multicultural community and also amongst students in general who, you know, have given positive feedback from, you know, going to it as just a Path Point event, I would definitely recommend, you know, strengthening Tough Talks if that's making them more consistent, making it more available, because now through Zoom we can have more people come on, you know, take advantage of that opportunity. But I really do think that Tough Talks were one of like the greatest things that could have merged the Met community in SGA. So not only on behalf of myself, on behalf of the multicultural community, I do think Tough Talks would be a good thing to keep continuing and keep strengthening.
Point of information.
Senator Troutwine.
First, I would like to say that I do concur with Senator Reese and Senator Brown. I agree that I think that these should be something that continues. But as to Director Guo's points, I'm very confused as to what you're trying to allude to with that. Could you possibly provide a little more explanation as to what you were saying that you were trying to replace Tough Talk?
Director Guo.
Yes, I can answer this question. I was trying to create events that teach students how to engage in civil conversation. how to engage in controversial topics. So it's basically going to be a similar like Tough Talks, if that makes sense. Any other questions?
What does that mean though? What is
Remember
engaging?
what we learned in Communication 100 about dialogues? Will be like that. I think someone has a question that is also outside of the Senate.
Can everybody hear me?
At this time, if we would like to further continue this conversation, the speaker will look favorably upon a senator moving to suspend the rules or moving to adjourn, and we can continue this conversation after the legislative part of Senate.
I move to suspend the rules and allow outside input.
I second that.
Thank you. We've got a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed at this time, please raise your hand.
I think this isn't going to change any of our wording in Senate Resolution 04. So I think we can adjourn and then have this conversation afterwards, instead of going through the circles of Robert's rules.
Thank you, Senator Reese. Hearing Senator Reese's objection, the speaker would look favorably upon a motion to, or moving to adjourn. So then we can continue with this conversation still under the auspiciousness of SGA. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Hearing a second, all those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand at this time. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Senate floor is adjourned, and the public is open to speak. Thank you very much, everyone.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You're echoing a little bit, Gabe, but yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So question for Tongu. So the question was, what can you replace with Tough Talks that is adequately replacing? And I'm wondering, how does teaching communication and challenging dialogue replace Tough Talks when the goal of Tough Talks was providing students a space to engage in difficult conversations freely without, I guess, a format that's guiding. I don't know how what you're saying. I don't know how that adequately or equally replaces Tough Talks, because it's highlighting how to engage in dialogue versus providing a topic that opens the floor for students to dialogue.
The problem is that there wasn't many Tough Talks created last year. So in order to figure out, I'm not sure if any seniors, juniors remember Dilali. He was the one who created Tough Talks, and that was 3-4 years ago. That was like before Maleah. And
Maleah was sustaining them too as well.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
I was just saying that Maleah hosted Tough Talks as well.
Yes, Maleah hosted a lot, so I'll have to reach out to Maleah to figure out, and Dilali, perhaps Dilali as well, to figure out like what was the original format. Again, I wasn't like, I was planning to close Tough Talks, but I wasn't opposed to reopen it as like if Iran wants to keep it, and that's why I need to open the discussion as well. Because I do realize, at least in my opinion, that most of us didn't learn enough in Communication 100 on how to engage in a dialogue, but we just straight went into like a lot of like controversial topics. I mean, obviously, Tough Talks was a great way to engage it, but that's why I was planning to create like ways to help teach students how to engage in civil conversations. Then perhaps sometime later we can move into like talking about those controversial topics.
So why is that? My question is, why is that necessary to replace? Why can't you add that in? As well as I know that there are events on campus that host that. I don't see how it's effectively adding that in, because it's not the students that attend Tough Talks aren't guaranteed to attend those sessions that you're saying you plan on hosting. So I'm confused on why you would replace it versus just adding maybe a separate thing because what you're bringing up seems very separate. I understand how you're attempting to make the connection, but it doesn't seem effective when it comes to a replacement ideal for Tough Talks.
Also, when creating path points, it's ideal if you have like around 1 hour. And I don't know what exactly is the rules right now, but like in the past, you'll have to like have a speaker to talk for at least 30 to 45 minutes. That's why it's hard to combine things together. I mean, I'm still open to creating 2 events, like perhaps 2 series for Campus Unity instead of only Tough Talks, but if that answers your concerns.
Yeah, no, I was just basically communicating that Tough Talks has been something valuable, and it sounds more like attempting to control the way people dialogue versus providing a space for people to dialogue. And I would think, as much as everybody else would be against controlling the way people dialogue, because that can be something that can be added separately. But that space for dialogue, I haven't seen it go a direction to where people would even need to say, okay, we need to find ways to communicate. I feel like you may be taking interpersonal issues and conflating it with actual Tough Talks, which have not, I don't know if you've been to a Tough Talk, but from actual experience, it has not led to something to where it's like, okay, let's take a step back on how we actually engage in dialogue, because students that participate have participated in a well format. So I'm not saying I'm opposed, or opposed to the idea of adding whatever event that is, but in terms of replacing Tough Talks, I think it would be ineffective, a bit inconsiderate, and would ignore the actual goal that Tough Talks leads to.
I would like to echo what Gabe said. Why is it on us to kind of teach other people how to have a civil discussion? Rather than continuing to talk about having a discussion, we should actually be having the discussions. And I think that we need to make sure that we don't come across as trying to, as he mentioned, control the means of the debate. I think that most people who come to those kind of things, come to Tough Talks or anything like that, I know I haven't been to one, but I'm guessing most people there are engaging, and they're engaging as politely as they can, while also talking about very, very tough issues that they've been through personally. So I don't see the use in having something like that, especially not to replace Tough Talks.
I mean, oh wait, did anyone else want to talk before me?
Yeah, I have a comment, I guess. I'm just kind of concerned that the idea for replacing it is something that we all already learned in Com 100. Like, if there's still a need, and there is still a need to have tough conversations on campus, and we all have already learned that content, I don't think it's useful to be reteaching that instead of maybe adding in another form of content that students have not all been taught that could help them engage in those conversations. That's just something to think about, I guess.
So I and Amy have been around since even before Tough Talks, and working with different kinds of dialogue related programs. Baby girl, I talking. Sorry. And sorry, I saw a dog. We are parked, so don't be worried about me crashing. But one of the things that we have learned is that helping students to think about how to engage in dialogue is an important part of Tough Talks. So we did have some similar kinds of events that were not great. And partially it was that we and the students did not find great facilitators who were able to help maintain systems of dialogue, and it did turn into more of debates, and people were no longer there to listen and learn. And so Tong Yu and others, I know I am certainly happy, and Amy is happy, to really help be critical thinkers as we develop these programs, and to help you put on programs that really are safe places for people to come and have these dialogues.
And there are ways to do that within an hour, and to through the setting of ground rules and the thoughtfulness of the questions and the prompts. And also, Tanya, I think I heard you say something, and just making sure that everyone knows, there doesn't have to be a speaker for 45 minutes. There just needs to be 45 minutes of content at least. So certainly offering myself and Amy and Meg to help with this process.
Also have a question on who else would be helping with the process of Tough Talks.
It's usually like how this set up is that my committee will set up the comment, like the campus unity committee will like try to decide the content as well as the theme. And then we will work with the special programs committee trying to make it path eligible. And usually that's how it works. And usually it's either me or someone else in the committee. We will host the event. In the past, there are 1 people hosting the event or 2 to 3. Last year, I think Natalie also brought Middle Ground. Another organization came in to host, but that was not Tough Talk. I'm not very sure which event was it, but it was path eligible. So we can also try to partner with other organizations to host those kind of events.
And just to clarify, who's all on that committee?
So far, I have Jada, I have Michael Davis, and I'm still sending out the invitation. There will be 1 draft out to Batu very soon, since my previous email was being set as passive aggressive, so I'll change my grammar. But yeah.
And Gabe, I would
It will
also
be around, oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
thank you. I would also say that because of the nature of Tough Talks and the interest in the student body for participating, that is typically something Chris and I have been involved in the past. We talk through with the students what the process is, who the other speakers from the campus might be, and what that could look like. So we certainly don't control it or try to take over it, but we do serve as advisors as we walk through that, what that event should look like.
Absolutely, thank you. I just think it's adequate for the student bodies to know who's all on the committee, just in case there could be disapproval. That would be rational if people on the committee didn't represent what the structure of that event actually was. So thank you.
Gabe, I just wanted to answer your question as well, if you don't mind. But I did, Annie and I had a meeting with a representative from the MAC community this week, and she kind of conveyed to us some concerns about the committee. And I had discussed with her about how there is only a AAA position as a standing committee chair position, and she said that she thinks that it would be a really great idea if there were other identities within the MET community represented on that committee each year. So like there were more standing committee positions. So that could definitely be another thing that we look into going forward.
Thank you. Will things like that be sent out so that not only MEC students, but MEC student leaders are aware of? Because I don't know if I've seen any information regarding that.
There has not been any information yet, but once there is, it will definitely be communicated adequately.
Thank you.
Also, in the past, the size of the committee has been different. Maya's committee only has been like 5 to 6 people. I'm not sure what exactly the size for last year for Natalie's committee is, but my original plan is to have around 10 to 15 people to be on my committee. But if everyone wants to join, I'm willing to extend the size, but it will be much bigger than I thought. And I mean, more people would be great. Obviously, it will be easier to plan out the events, but just keep in mind it might be the size of a committee might be too big as can be considered as a club, individual club instead of just committee. But I'm still open for applications. So,
Tong, I didn't think that there were any limits as to the committee sizes. That they're also open to any student who's interested in the campus. Yeah.
Sorry, finish your.
Oh, just that I don't think that there have ever been limits set. So I think that it's just open to whoever wishes to join.
Yeah, there's no limit. It just depends on personal preference. Every director sets this differently, but like I said again, I'm open to expand the size.
And just for clarification, the SGA bylaws state that all members of the Committee on Campus Unity serve at the pleasure of the Director of Campus Unity, which is pretty typical for all of the committees.
I'll leave my email. So if anyone is interested in joining my committee or having more further discussion about how you would like to see something Campus Unity want to do, just please let me know.